Hey y'all, what's up? I just want to give a shout out to Petty Tupac TV. Make sure you go smash, like, and don't forget to subscribe. For real, for real.
Pistol Pete is the founder of Sex Money Murder and was one of the most savage individuals that has ever risen from New York, hands down. He earned his nickname from the gangsters in New York, like literally earned his nickname. It was rumored by the time Pistol Pete was 21, he caught over 10 bodies and had been involved in upwards of 30. This is a rumor. It is not proven, I must add. In the 1990s, Pistol Pete made a name for himself as the leader of a violent gang named Sex Money Murder, like I said earlier. Sex Money Murder is a Bronx-based street organization that originated in the Soundview section of the Bronx, New York area. After a Rikers Island stint where Peter Rolock, aka Pistol Pete, born 1974, was locked up with a UBN leader, it became sanctioned as one of the original UBN sets. They are known to be rivals with Crips, Gangster Disciples, OY, MS-13, OGs, YGs, etc. The list goes on and on and on. UBN means United Blood Nation for you all that don't know. In the Bronx, Sex Money Murder's signature was to pull up on bikes and let loose on their enemies. Sex Money Murder grew into a very big organization in all five boroughs and had a bloody influence very quickly. Unlike many other gangs, they were not just spraying ops, but they were trying their best to get to the money. A lot of your favorite rappers will rap about Sex Money Murder. Nas, for instance, said on Get Down, New York streets where killers walk like Pistol Pete and Pappy Mason gave the young boys admiration. Prince from Queens and Fritz from Harlem, street legends. The drugs kept the hoods from starving. Man, that's not the truth. 50 Cent said, it is what it is, my nigga. Why ask why? I see. I stayed with some in the street, but the uptown love me like Pistol Pete. Pistol Pete was just very influential to a lot of people because of his reputation and how many people feared him and loved him, or maybe it was just really fear. He grew up in the Bronx hood called Soundview in Castle Hill area. It was a very dangerous and rough neighborhood. Pete was 3 when his father left the household, leaving Pete's mother to raise him on her own, like so many kids from the ghetto. Pete's father was in and out of jail most of his life until he was eventually arrested and sentenced to 50 years in prison for trafficking drugs for an infamous figure you may know named Nicky Barnes. Pistol Pete was a normal kid like many who attended his Catholic school, but after he switched to public high school, his mother said that she noticed Pete started to slightly but surely change. Pete idolized his father in public despite him not being around very much and being the son of an infamous hustler. He felt he had to live up to his father's name, as many children do, including myself when I wanted to live up to my uncle's street reputation. Just like a lot of gang leaders I met through my criminal career in prison time, Pete was very charismatic. He was just a character, and he quickly became the leader by age of 17. His mother could no longer handle him, so he sent him to live with his father's friend. However, this only made things worse for his father's friend, who too was also a big hustler who put Pete under his wing, putting him on to the gang. He would supply Pete with drugs, which Pete would then distribute the drugs with his little crew of friends. Pete started Sex Money Murder in 93. Sex Money Murder, they developed the wildest reputation, like off bail. Their crew would rob drug dealers and extort them. If Pete wanted anything from you, like a chain, a corner, or a car, he would simply take it and dare you to do something about it. They would even rob people for their guns at a club called The Tunnel. Didn't matter where you were, Pistol Pete loved drama. There was one story that went, if Pete knew the stick-up kids were out, he would borrow all his members' chains and put them on, daring someone to take them, just so he could get some excitement out of doing his thing. Friends were known to have to calm Pistol Pete down because he would be ready to bust his guns on busy streets in front of everybody. He was an alleged millionaire by 20 because the only thing he loved more than violence was getting to the money. Pete had the hood on lock with drugs, murder, and the extortion game. He even sent shipments out of states to places like PA and Carolina, not too far from New York. One of his trips, OT changed everything though. On a routine trip down to North Carolina, one of the Sex Money Murder customers was causing a problem. He owed Pistol Pete $1,000, some say $90,000 for some cocaine, but wasn't able to pay. Pistol Pete wanted to kill him right there, but ended up giving him an extra day. The next day, the dealer avoided him. Pistol Pete got very upset and said he was going to go after the dealer's family, but before he could leave to do it, the police rushed in and arrested Pistol Pete and his gang. He later found out that the North Carolina dealer he had been working with was actually a longtime police informant. A police dog searched the van that Pistol Pete came to North Carolina in. The dog indicated there were drugs in the car. The police weren't able to find them. Pete and his gang always installed traps in all vehicles they used to ship drugs out of state. The police caught on and then impounded the van so they could take it apart and find the trap compartment. They booked Pistol Pete and his gang. They all gave false names, then bailed out. Then hurried back to New York before the police in North Carolina could figure out who they really were. Sex Money Murder continued operating in New York. I keep saying New York. Sex Money Murder continued operating in North Carolina. But the next time Pistol Pete would come back, it was in handcuffs. But for the time Pistol Pete would forget about the case, he had bigger problems waiting for him back in New York. In the 1990s, some murders would be committed by the dozens across New York in order to maintain control of the streets. In 1994, Pistol Pete would kill a rival drug dealer named Carlton Hines. He was a legendary hustler from New York who had one foot in the streets and the other foot on the court as a local basketball star with a college scholarship. But it must have been some beef we don't know going on between them after Pistol Pete shot and killed Hines as he was coming out of his stereo shop. Pete will also hit one of Hines' friends during the shooting later, finishing the job, fearing that Hines' friend would cooperate in a potential murder case. This didn't stop the police from catching on to, and Pistol Pete was arrested a year later for the murder of Carlton Hines and sent to Rikers. While on the island, he was approached by members of the Bloods, of the United Blood Nation. UBN was formed in Riker Islands a year or two before Pistol Pete got there. The UBN heard about him and his reputation and wanted Pistol Pete to join. However, Pistol Pete said he wasn't a follower and that he would only join if they let him create his own set under the UBN umbrella. The UBN sanctioned this blood set, and Sex Money Murder then became its own set under the UBN umbrella, joining other blood sets such as the Nine Trey Gangsters. If you don't know what the Nine Trey Gangsters is, that was the gang, blood gang Tekashi was in. Pistol Pete will continue running Sex Money Murder from behind bars, though. He then made bail a while later and returned to Soundview. Pistol Pete put all Soundview onto the blood thing, and soon the whole neighborhood was painted big red. But 2 weeks after being released, Pistol Pete would return to court where they would drop the charge of murder for lack of witness. However, the North Carolina police case would come back to get him. The police in North Carolina had identified the fingerprints submitted during Pistol Pete's prior arrest and were now bringing a drug case against him. New York authorities then arrested Pistol Pete at the courthouse and sent him to North Carolina to face charges. He was only 21 at the time, but it would be the last time Pistol Pete would ever be a free man. Pistol Pete was convicted on federal drug and gun charges and sentenced to 45 years in prison. Most of his crew had turned on him, and police have also intercepted dozens of jail letters which they would use to show that Pistol Pete was still running Sex Money Murder on Rikers Island. Here's the thing, though. You would think getting hit with 45 years would kill a person's street career. They wouldn't want to be involved in it no more. Wrong. Pistol Pete was a different type of Negro. He continued issuing orders from jail, including orders to murder, but the police wouldn't let this slide under the federal indictment, and he was eventually unsealed. The indictment that they had was unsealed in New York, and Pistol Pete and 10 other members of Sex Money Murder were hit with the RICO. The feds claiming that Sex Money Murder was a criminal organization that operated a large stroke operation, committed robberies and did murder for hire. They pinned at least 9 murders to the group, saying that Pistol Pete was ordering people to be killed from his jail cell, worried that one of his associates one of the hits he ordered would go down in local history. Pistol Pete was he was done for, especially with the drug charges. So he had ordered the murder of his associate and another man when they were gunned down at a community football game in what came to be known as the Thanksgiving Day murders. Pete ended up pleading guilty to racketeering in order to avoid potential death penalty case in the same courthouse where his father had been sentenced 20 years prior. Pistol Pete would get 3 back-to-back life sentences plus an additional 105 years, ensuring that he would die in prison. The government went further to deny him even the most basic comfort since Pistol Pete made history of running sex, money, murder behind bars. The government shipped him to Florence correctional facility. That's super AD max. That's why the Larry Hoovers, the Jeff Forsyth, all the influential terrorists, what's that guy, Malachi York, that's where they at. And it's ironic that he was sentenced in the same courthouse his father was. Pete has been held in solitary confinement with only his close family and lawyer being able to contact him after Pistol Pete was convicted for the last time. New York police would go out to Soundview and distribute flyers with his face on them and the caption saying, "Don't be the next." They knew the power that Pistol Pete had and wanted to stop kids from looking up to him. However, Pistol Pete's legacy continues to this day and to thrive. There are sex, money, murder sets in Florida, Carolina, Michigan prison systems, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I hear even in California. Just imagine if he used that influence, power, fear, and charisma to make young men go to school and listen to their parents. What he applied to his street life, he could have applied to a legit business. I mean, we can all say that because, you know, we're not in his shoes, of course. I asked myself when I had my run, why didn't I do things better? Hindsight is always 2020, though. Like I always say, if you made it to the end, help me out by pressing the like button. At least my super supporters, please comment, share, like, subscribe if you haven't. And become a member for exclusive content I can't release to the masses on here. Peace and blessings be upon you. Oh, and let me know who you want to hear a short story on next. Please let your boy know. Peace and blessings be upon y'all. Big old 5.